Right guys, how are we doing? So, episode 2 of how to build your gallery. In this episode guys, we're going to be talking about being ahead of the curve basically. So this is a topic that I've kind of broached on a number of occasions with different content that we've produced on the channel, and we're now going to be putting a little bit of a SoRare kind of spin on that. Okay, so if you like the video, I'll make you laugh, or something interesting happens, or you come away with any knowledge you didn't have prior to the video, I would very much appreciate you smashing that like button for me. Hit the wee subscribe thing, hit bells, and you know, all the other stuff people ask you to do. If you haven't joined SoRare yet and this interests you and you want to know a little bit more, all the links are down below, so you can get all the free stuff to get yourself up and running, as well as the new to SoRare playlist I've got on the channel to help you walk through step by step how to do absolutely everything. It's going to be a blast guys. We're on great form now in terms of the gallery and the rewards we're pulling. We'll get into all that stuff. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, and let's get stuck into it. Now, the first thing you might be thinking is, what does he mean by being ahead of the curve? So the thing with football, in case you haven't noticed, is a lot of players will go in and out of good and bad form. They'll go in and out of the starting lineup, and you know, there's various factors that now, especially fixture congestion, international clearance, you know, going abroad for international games, coming back and having to isolate, COVID tests coming back positive, on top of all the normal stuff like suspensions and injuries, etc. So there's a lot of dynamics and a lot of potential hurdles and factors that are actually in play in the world of football at the moment, which we've not really had previously before, on top of all the usual ones that you'd expect. Okay, so when we're looking to be ahead of the curve, whether it be from a football index perspective, a SoRare perspective, Footstock, anything, sports stack, anything you're into, what you're always looking to do is acquire assets as cheaply as you possibly can. Okay, now we're on SoRare data, and this, by the way, I've got a video called how to use SoRare data. It is antiquated already because the amount of features that these guys have put out and updated and upgraded is phenomenal. It is 100% free. If you do not have an account on this, I don't care if you use SoRare or not, then you are missing tricks left, right and centre, because it's got Opta stats, you know, blah 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 blah. I'm not going to go into that in this video. Okay, get an account, it's free. I'll link it down below so you can go find the website. It's absolute doddle. Anywho, so when we're on this and we're scouring the market, right, we're looking for those unearthed gems, those wee cheeky ones that are, you know, you can maybe unearth quite cheap, get them for less than 0.1 of an ether, and really boost up your gallery, make your D4s competitive. Or maybe you're looking for something that can mature into a really good D3 or D2 card, talking about rares. You always want to be acquiring them basically as cheap as possible. If you're going to go out and buy somebody who's hot on form, banging in goals, everyone's going to know who they are, everyone's going to be involved in the auctions, and you're going to have to pay more basically, which no one wants to ever do. You always want to pay less. Okay, that's the objective. That's what we're always looking for. Now, before I set up the video, I just jumped on this wee page and I thought, right, who could I talk about? Who's a decent example for this, right? And as I scroll through, there might be some players here you're familiar with, maybe somebody you've heard of before, some guys you've been scouting, or you might even just be looking at the little bars. Okay, so the little bars at the bottom tell you, you know, their last match score, their average match score, that kind of thing. Okay. But our boy here, the one I'm going to use as an example, right? Urawa Red. Okay, he's injured at the moment, I believe. So when we click into Urawa here, okay, so we can see the good thing about SoRare is SoRare data is you can see all the auctions and that kind of thing. He's got a live auction at the moment at time of recording. So if we click on the guy and we have a wee look at him, now this is one of the features that I noticed actually earlier today. They've been upgraded, so I don't know when it actually took place. I feel ridiculous I didn't know the day it came out because it looks super sexy, right? But we can see here his last 5 average is 62, his last 15 average is 43. Okay, so and then again you can bounce that against the average sale of the card, 0.54 in total. The last 2 weeks it was a wee bit higher, the last month was a wee bit lower. Best offer on the secondary market is basically double what you would get him at auction potentially. Okay, now this little guy's like 20, 19, something like that. He's an under 21 youth international for Belgium. Blah blah blah. Okay, but what you're really looking for with these guys, and this is the little feature that I'm loving at the moment, we had all the historic SO5 scores on this site already, but it was just in list format. What I've done is I've made this sexy ass graph. Look at that. So what we can see is all the game weeks the guys played, from basically, well, it starts here at 20. I've not dived into every card to see if it goes all the way back to game week 1 or not. But anyway, it brings you from 20 all the way up to current, okay? And you can see his scores, okay? So Ewood at the moment has had some decent scores recently, which pushes that average up, okay? But he did have a DNP in the last game week, and there's a good chance the next game week he's not actually going to feature because of his injury, or, you know, he had to pull out of the Belgium under-21 squad because of, I forget exactly the details, but it was some sort of injury, I believe. So if you're looking at a guy and you're scouting about the market, you could just be on anybody in that auction page, and you just want to click into them. You hit on this SO5 scores, and you can see the kind of highs, you can see the averages, you can see the lows, okay? So getting a score of 8 back here in game week 26 and 14 the game week before, obviously. If you can see potential in a player that's scoring that low, then you'll get him super cheap, and that'll be brilliant. But what you are looking for is, do you know what? It's probably not really known to that many people that game week 94, so basically like 12 game weeks ago, the guy hit a score of just under 99, 98.9. So when you see that average of like, what was the average, 62? It looks attractive, he looks good, but what you're really looking for with some of these cards is those super high 80 plus scores. That's what you're really looking for. And the more players you can grab that can really get those high scores, you'll have a lineup of players going into your D4, your D3, your regionals, whatever it might be, and you could have a team of like average performers that are always going to score between 40 and 60, you know, and that's fine. But you will always, if you want to really challenge at the top end, or you're worried about DNPs, or you're worried about the COVID late cut-offs, that kind of thing, you do need players that have the ability to go out and rack up a top score. So when we're talking about being ahead of the curve, this is the sort of graph I'm looking for, okay? Now, I'll reveal the players to you shortly, okay? If you want to hazard a guess, feel free to drop it in the comment section below, but I can't timestamp your comments, so I've got no idea if you'll be placing the comment after I reveal it or not. But this is the sort of thing I'm looking for. So I'm always looking for that player in MLS and K-League and J-League, the less known, Belgium probably a little bit as well, I suppose, but you're looking for those lesser known leagues. To the majority of managers that are on SoRare, that their current, you know, last 15, last 5 averages will look orange, maybe red, and they'll be going for very, very cheap on the auctions as a result. But once you scratch beneath the surface and you see, do you know what, when this guy is in good form, he can easily hit those 60 plus scores, you know, and you can see back in these other game weeks we had scores of 80, 77, 80, 79, and then there's kind of lows when he was in decent form is 44. Now when I reveal the player, you'll understand the you know, I'll explain a little bit of the reason behind the form, but buying them now, if I can get them super cheap when the scores are as low as averaging between 23 and let's say the high of 51, with a recent DNP as well, then I know that I can buy something like that ahead of the curve. I can buy them super cheap. Yeah, do you know what? I probably won't be able to use them in the next game week if he's had a DNP, depending on the reason for it. Each individual, obviously, before you buy somebody, make sure you fully research their situation, especially if there's a pattern of DNPs in there. But this guy, I know the DNPs previously were down to injury, and then I know he's been back playing recently, so I don't know if that's to do with internationals, because it very easily could be. But that's the sort of thing I'm always looking for, so I can then try and snipe somebody on the market super cheap, put them into my gallery, put them on ice, forget about them, and then when they're ready to be deployed, then I've got them cheap, number one. So if I want a resale value, it's very easy to recoup some profit on top of that when your entry is so low. But number two, they can actually go into tournaments and actually have a viable chance of contributing in a massive way to a big win, you know, for the gallery, for your club. Now, as you can see with this player as well, his price history has went back quite a lot. He's went down to, on average, 0.35, 0.36, and his highs are basically right up at, you know, basically 1.26, 1.27. So he's been down by about 2/3 of his price has been chopped off, basically down to the form. There'll be a little bit of that there's more of them in circulation now, because you know what it's like if you've been around here longer than 2 minutes, that the number 1, 2 and 3 of every card has a lot of interest on it, because a lot of people will want to buy that player. And then once you have the first kind of herd of, you know, adopters on that player, have bought them, they've acquired them, they've ticked them off their to-do list, then you can maybe get in a little bit cheaper anyway. So when you have both those combinations in play, you can grab these guys mega cheap, okay? And this is who we're talking about. JDS, Jonathan Dos Santos. He's been around for a while, you probably know who he is. He's had a decent career in Europe, he's been over to America. Mexicans been in California, you know, they live like Hollywood stars basically, so there's a massive Hispanic contingent over there. So him and Chicharito and all the rest of them, they kind of love LAFC, LA Galaxy. These clubs do really well with them commercially, Carlos Vela, etc. You know. So anyway, He's 30, obviously he's no spring chicken, but a guy like this you could pick up super cheap at the moment because the form for the Galaxy has been dreadful. It's been absolutely awful. The form has been rank rotten. Skeleto doesn't really seem to know what he's doing, to be honest with you. I don't think he'll be long in the job if this form continues. But the thing so the situation we're in now with MLS clubs is, of course, the season has, we're closer to the end than the beginning at this point. They've only got is that about half a dozen fixtures that are penciled in. They may have another one or two for reschedules. I don't see the Colorado game. I know they had Colorado at one point, so they've got another couple of games to be rescheduled. And when you look at the standings as well, they are rock bottom of the Western Conference. Okay, now again, when you look at that, you think, Jesus, they're all 5 losses in the last 5 games, 15 points from 15, but because of the situation this year, the playoffs are extended to the top 8. Now there's only 12 in each conference, so they really have a points gap. And bearing in mind they have played a couple of less games to San Jose and Colorado. You may throw Dallas in there, but Dallas are on the same matches. But they only have 4 points to really make up, and they have 2 games in hand, so I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of LA and all their situation at the moment in the Galaxy, but this is the sort of thing I'm always looking for, especially when I was brand new, and after I'd bought the kind of headline players. I wanted my Gabriel, my Bruno, my Ferran Torres, Bruno Gomes, Depay. Once I'd got the big name players and I thought, right, I need to be frugal now. I need to go around, get some sneaky bargains, really strengthen up my gallery on all different directions. Okay, now I know the MLS pretty well. I don't know the J League pretty well. You might be the opposite to that. You might not know any of these kind of rural, leagues that well at all. But if you've been an avid football fan throughout your lifetime, or you've been a big Football Manager head, big FIFA head, Football Index, well, probably not Football Index, I suppose it's not really relevant for this, but for example, I can look at the J League, right, and I recognise Gamba Osaka, from World Club Cups in the past. Same with Urawa Red. I forget their full name, they're right here, but they're 9th for the now. And then is there another team? Who else did I recognise before I came onto this? I think that might have... Yokohama Marinos, because of Nakamura. I think they done pretty well maybe a few years ago. So there's some clubs I know right away, right? Well, I know they're kind of big clubs because I know they've won things in the past. Gamba Osaka are sitting 4th in the league, so they're they're in great form, 5 wins out of 5. Yokohama F Marinos, their form's okay, they're at the top end of the league. Urawa Reds, I reckon they're a biggish club because I know they've played in Club World Cups before, so it must mean they've won the Asian Champions League at some point. I can have a look at them, for example. I said that, then I thought, you know what, I better actually check this out, because they might have won it in Football Manager or something, and I've just got it in my head they won it in real life. But yeah, they've won it twice in the last 20 years, so a big Asian club. But again, I can search them on SoRare data. Just put in Urawa and hit search, and then this pops up. So starting 11 over the last 5 games is all here. I can see average scores, and I can see that they're kind of mid-table. So if I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, right, okay, obviously there's more apps to go into. I'm not going to take you right through that in this video, but I can click into really any of these and try and find a little gem. So I'm going to look at let's see. I'm going to go with Quenten Martinus just because his name's Quentin. My name's Quinny. So I'm going to click into him and we'll see if we can find that same kind of graph potentially. He's going cheap as hell, number 1. So he's either a rubbish player or he's in bad form. It's one of the two things. Let's hit the SoFi scores. Let's have a peek. Okay, it's probably about both. He does have the highs, he's got over the 60 mark, which isn't that impressive, but it's there at least. We're going to have a look at the wee Brazilian midfielder Everton, see if we can find that kind of graph with him as well. Going kind of cheap. The super rare went a decent price. Unique wasn't too cheap as far as uniques go anyway. 2 coin. They start at 1. Scores are fairly consistent. But again, back when they probably had some good form, game week 84. So we're going back a bit. If they are playing well. This guy's in centre mid. So he's probably not a cam type player. And again, there's further research to be done on these guys. I'm just kind of showing you a loosey-goosey kind of way, at least, how you can try and snipe out some players from some leagues that you're not get great knowledge on, and probably a lot of the user base don't have a lot of knowledge on either. So there's only 9 of this guy. Let's see what his scores look like as well. Okay, so again, he's got a few of them going for him as well. How old is he? Does it tell us here? Now, I've kind of clicked ahead, done some of this stuff off camera, so I'm not taking you through the full team and trying to find. I'm trying to avoid Kashiwagi and Makino, yeah, because they are both green, and on an auction they're going to pop up right away. the one that really jumped out to me as I kind of clicked through some of these guys is Daiki Hashioki. Okay, now his last 5 average is 40, his last 15 average is 48. Okay, but again, when we jump into him and we have a wee look, he's going super cheap. Best offer in the market isn't that cheap, but if you can get him at auction, you're looking at about 0.05. And then when we look at his scores, he's got that graph we're looking for. When we look back at when they were in better form, this guy being right back, he can easily get to those 60s on a regular basis. And if he is, he's got 1 goal and 1 assist this year. And so when he is getting involved in actual goal opportunities, he's got that potential to really jump up the page and really score really high for you. And again, for a player that you can easily pick up on paper, we'll see what happens after this video, of course, but for 0.05 of an ether. These are the sort of guys you want to be building your gallery with, so that when they hit good form again, and we'll see how much this comes to pass. We've got an odd record in the video, on the channel of dogging about stuff, and then random positives also come out of it as a result. But when we look at Urawa's fixtures, they've got 2 of the bottom 3 in the remaining haul. They've got a bunch of mid-table opposition, and they have a Gambas. They basically have 3 of the top 4 left to play as well, so those are points that they'll be vital for them to try and get up that top end and try and get themselves back into, I was going to say back into Europe, but you know what I mean, back into continental competition. Whether they'll do it or not, I'm by nowhere an expert in Asian Japanese football. All this is me using raw data, some little bits of knowledge I've got already in terms of Urawa. I kind of rate them as a biggish club, in the sphere that we're looking at, and we can maybe get a wee sneaky player on the cheap for them. So guys, to wrap up, I've shown basically what you're always looking to do, or what you should be trying to do at every opportunity, is even in these leagues where your knowledge isn't that deep, there's a good chance that there's a lot of other people in the same position, and with a little bit of previous knowledge, I suppose, and a bit of time, bit of effort, using SoRare data, scratching beneath the surface and kind of knowing the criteria of what you're looking for, JDS, Jonathan Dos Santos, is obviously 30 years old. This guy's 21, So I'm looking for a player that's circa 0.05, and he has to be a decent average scorer with really high peaks. You can easily find, well, I know this club's kind of big, and, I say easily. You know what I'm saying, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope this has been useful for you. As I've been doing this, I've kind of went off on wee tangents and kind of went a bit deeper than I normally would on a video. So please don't take this as I'm telling you to go buy Hashioka or go buy Dos Santos. I'm just basically telling you that even if you don't have a big depth of knowledge in some of these other territories and some of these other leagues, that you can easily, with a little bit of time and effort and parameters that you're happy to work within, whether it be pricing or scoring or age or any of these types of things, you can find targets you can easily build up in your favourites list and try and snipe at auctions at 2 in the morning or 12 in the afternoon, whatever it might be, to build your gallery up. As I look at my gallery, I'm basically going to start from here and go back. Okay, so this is everyone I've acquired at 0.1 or less. Okay, so ignore Sardella. We've got a Jetty, don't even need to tell you anything about it. I'm just going to scroll through it, and if any of them come up with a talking point, I'll kind of explain it to you. But a lot of these guys that I've got for less than 0.1 have actually been super valuable to me. Kevin Paredes has done well for me in under 23s. Kripau's also an injured goalkeeper. Cisniga I bought when he wasn't in the team, and I knew he was a rotation option. I'd done a bit of research, could see he came from Sociedad. The #1 goalkeeper at the time is aging. He's likely to come in. Carlos Soler is a decent guy. Johnny Russell and Jesus Medina have both done great work for me in the American divisions and won me prizes undoubtedly. Nubel and Berhalter, they're kind of for the future, I suppose. Danilo, 0.75, again, he's a wee bit older, so people will ignore him, but he's an amazing attacking fullback. Turban's one for the future. Anthony Fontana and Iwid Pletnicek, again, really good, high-scoring players for how young they are. Yeah, fair enough, Fontana doesn't play that much, and Pletnicek has got a wee bit of an injury or a problem at the moment, but again, getting these guys super cheap, they, one goes into Challenger Europe, one goes into America, and I've got them forever. Kyrie Shelton and Jota has now went to Real Valladolid, so he should be playing. Scored today for the under-21s against Gibraltar under-21s, so hopefully he's going to be starting in La Liga now, which would be cool. Lewis Morgan, who's been an absolute monster. Mas Danley did okay for me when I first got him, he's not been playing much recently. Koki Machida hasn't played as regular as I would want to. Mason Toy is a recent addition. Ayuda is a recent addition. Did well for me. I just missed out on the Asian this week. My first Asian lineup thanks to my wee forward here. Jamario hasn't played yet. Cadden did okay. There have been a couple of games he played. Snodgrass, thought he was going to go to Celtic. It didn't happen. Gutman has been great for me. Zelalem hasn't kicked a ball. Tommy McNamara has been great. Chanatip hasn't kicked a ball, barely. Ominami has been good. Danny Wilson was good when he was playing. Surprisingly cheap, I got him for as well. Sam Nicholson's went to League One in England. He's useless, and then we get into the rewards. So as you can see, as I kind of colloquially, I know I can't say that word, but I think you know the word I mean, run through them. It's probably about a 50-50 split of it has been useful already in a 3-month period, and other ones maybe are a wee bit more for the future, like a Nubel or a Turban, or whatever it may be. Jal Mario's now transferred, that kind of thing. So when you've got that nice little, how many cards were there? Maybe 10, 12, something like that. You've got a little base, a little foundation of those guys. Then when you go and get your more expensive acquisitions, they've got some cards that can complement them if you're shopping by region or by age or how the fixtures are piling up. So the next 2 months, all these leagues will be playing, so it doesn't matter if they're in different regions. So I can get them in a global lineup. But yeah, and then very quickly you feel very strong, you feel very powerful. You go into tournaments and you know, do you know what? We'll have this team cost me bugger all, but the guys that cost me a little bit more, and I'm just going to use this little clutch of 4 because they're all together in my gallery, and I find that convenient for this conversation. But Lee Kang-in, Larson, Van Hoosten, and Eo Tanaka, they've all been a little bit more expensive, and because they're a little bit more expensive, I get a bit more guarantee on them scoring a bit higher. So when I've got those guys in there with some good kind of average scorers that have got a wee bit of potential to go and shoot those 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, along with some of these other guys that I know their floor is much higher, and obviously their ceiling to go on and really control a game and win a game for somebody and score me big is there as well. Then before you know it, you're going into D4 super strong, and you're starting to set your sights on D3 with real credible a real credible merit of actually making a good stiff at it, a good effort to go and actually back some prizes. And that's how it's all about, guys. Don't get me wrong, you might be coming in here with a lot of wedge, a lot of money, and you might not be looking at these bargain basement guys. You're just all about super rares or high end rares, and that's cool. But in my opinion, everyone's always going to be happy getting a bargain. Everyone's always going to be happy getting something ahead of the curve, so then when this guy goes and kicks on and really performs really, really well, you can kind of dust yourself down. Like my Johnny Russell or my Lewis Morgan, I bought them for obvious reasons, but then when they go and score super high, I'm sitting there buzzing, so I'm thinking, I knew they would do well, and I've killed it, so I got them for an absolute bargain. If you're new around here, guys, and you've enjoyed the video, please make sure you do subscribe. All the links are down below. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.